Hey, it's Tpok. Back in true Remembrance, we left off looking at this kid in a chair. He was sitting deathly still on a chair, just staring back at me. But that didn't last for long. He burst into tears in a matter of seconds. It was unreal. There was no sound, no noise, just tears. I looked around, and I realized every single one of these rooms had a child in it. How long was this corridor anyhow? How many children were imprisoned here? I stopped looking into the rooms altogether. After a while, I knew exactly what I'd see. It was enough to give me the worst headache of my life. All I knew was I couldn't stay here, which was why I ran for dear life back into town once it was safe. All those children, they're all Omegas, aren't they? Correct. I was one of their number long ago. He said with a nod. They were all crying, weren't they? But it wasn't because they were sad themselves. It was because you were there with them. I have no idea what you're talking about. Those children have no selves. They are empty echoes. They take on the emotions of the people near them, whether they want to or not. And because they each have a hole as big as their souls, and it needs filling. I thought of all those children, all those tears, and I cursed. But Analia just smiled back. Don't feel sorry for them. They don't feel a thing. No pain, no sorrow. Wait, Analia is one of them too, so what's he talking about? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Oh, really? Then what about yourself? You're an Omega just like them. And so is that girl. The worst thing, when you realize you are you. I came to that realization one day. I wondered what I was doing here. I wondered what would happen to me as I took all that sorrow, held it in. You saw, all children, no one else. Because none of them grow up, they all vanish, overwhelmed by the psychic corrosion of others. I didn't want that. I escaped from my room. I wanted to live. I didn't want to vanish. Obviously, they caught me before long. He said with a wry smile. But they didn't make me go back. They had no idea what to do. With an Omega who had volition, I was the first. That's my nickname. So they let me out. Made me a researcher and professor of Mnemonicidology. He sighed deeply. He looked like he gained a few wrinkles just telling me this story. Now his hands were gripping the podium in order to support his weight. And then he opened his mouth again. But the psychic corrosion inside me never vanished, not even afterwards. I'd have been fine if they were really mine, but these were all someone else's. People I'd never seen before. What was I supposed to do with that? That's why I started looking for a pure Omega that nobody had found yet. And I found her. She's young, too young. Can't take my psychic corrosion yet. But that's fine. So, you plan to foist your freaking psychic corrosion onto her shoulders? Those memories aren't mine. And they're heavy, too heavy. So heavy I can't stand anymore. You planned this from the very beginning. I told you, didn't I, that I had a use for her. I don't like you, Analia. Analia was smiling. I watched him for a while, and then my hand naturally went to my pocket. Out came the gun that Analia had given me 3 years ago. I pointed it at him, and he nodded at me, gently. As I said, that's fine. She'll cry and cry, and know no end of tears if I give my memories to her. I won't let you. I have no intention of stopping, you know. Then why did you give me this gun? For a moment, Annalie couldn't find the words to say, but it didn't take long for him to recover. Blackiris, you fool, I made a little wager. Would you take away my pain first, or would she? Don't you see, I don't care which one it is. All the same to me, and equally painful for you. I bit my lip and steadied the gun. You're the first person I ever asked anything of. No, there's another, but he didn't think like me. Too bad. Probably the uncooperative student that he'd once told me about. He told me he had a philosophical objection to a healthy person just lying down and dying. He hated the dolor, heart and soul, and so he could never kill me. But you know how to handle that, I hope. Annalie sneered. All trace of any smile had now disappeared from his face. All that was left was just a grim and austere determination. It was almost majestic. So, Blackiris, that moment I realized there was no way I'd be able to talk him out of this. So I said, tell her, just once, that you love her. You can do that. You should do that. I averted my eyes. I felt like I could face anything except for this. But I didn't move a muscle. He just stood there, looking straight through the gun and into my heart. It was startlingly clear, his stare, so clear that it burned. I made ready to pull the trigger. Yeah, it would be so easy, just one pull, and I found that I didn't have the strength or the heart to do that. The gun felt so heavy in my hands. It was the weight of the world. I couldn't hold on to it. I let it fall to the ground. The gun skidded for a long time. It sailed right past Annalie and disappeared into a crack on the floor. I will not kill you. But it wasn't as if the girl was going to turn on Annalie down. No, she'd keep taking his pain away, even if she was burdened with all the psychic corrosion in the world. I had no idea what to do anymore. And that was just as well, because there was nothing I could do anymore. I stumbled out of the church, step by step. I could feel the Alpha of Omega's eyes on me the entire time. He seemed so sad. Should have done it. But I understand why you couldn't. It was raining harder than ever now. I just kept walking through town. I felt numb to everything around me. I thought maybe some brilliant idea would occur to me if I just did this. Talk about stupid. Because no matter how much I brainstormed, my conclusion was always the same. There was nothing I could do. I couldn't help Annalie, and I couldn't help the girl. I wandered about aimlessly for a long time, but eventually I was out of ideas, and out of energy. I stumbled back to my apartment. It took more effort than I'd ever imagined to climb up those steps, and then to unlock the door. Oh yeah, she's still here. Oh no, she's not. The girl was nowhere to be found. But I was in no condition to be thinking about that right now. I collapsed onto my bed. Water ran off my hair and entered my eyes, so I brushed it off gloomily. I fell asleep in a matter of minutes. So are we gonna go back to present? I slept forever. When I awoke I had a high fever, maybe because of the rain, maybe because I was tired of thinking. I couldn't even stand. There were so many things I had to do, but for the life of me I couldn't move my body. This was hopeless. It took me 3 days. On the evening of the third day, I got up out of bed and stumbled outside. I had to get over to that church before it was too late. I had to get to that girl before Annelier made her take on this pain. And I knew, in the back of my head, that this wouldn't solve anything, but I had no other course of action. 3 days. That's not a long time, but it was enough time for fall to turn into winter. It was so cold. I felt frozen by the time I opened the door to the church. The girl was curled up on the floor, her head in her hands, and Annelier was lying on a bench near her. The same gentle smile that had always graced his face was gracing it now, except his eyes did not open, and his body did not move. I couldn't believe it. I moved in closer. I needed to know. The girl raised her head from the floor at my approach. Her hair spilled over her shoulders. It was white. What? Pops, he was always sick. He refused hospitalization because he knew he couldn't see me. He hid it. I found him, collapsed here. Tears continued to stream down her face, but she didn't bother to wipe them. Instead, she gently touched Annelier's face with her hands. It was such a gentle act, as if they were saying goodbye to each and every one wrinkle on his face. Pops, Pops. But Annelier never woke up, and the girl shed tears. So many tears that Annelier's face was drenched by the time it was all over. Her tears, her white hair, her shuddering body, it all filled me with such pain. So in her own way, she'd taken this pain away from him at long last. Jeez. But at this rate she was going to cry forever until she too disappeared. The realization chilled me to my bones. I wasn't about to let that happen, not if I could help it. So I started walking towards her. I didn't even realize I was doing it. I was going to try and seal her psychic corrosion away. I already knew that this was impossible, but I had no other course of action. I had to try it. She looked at me then, with such determination and rage that I took a step back, and she cried out, "Get away from me!" She tore herself away from my gaze and started shaking her head violently. "Let me go! Pops asked me to stop. He wanted me to just stay with him, just hold his hand until the end." I looked back at Annelia's peaceful face, and I knew that there was no way he could have died like this unless... But I didn't want him to leave me, not with all that pain, not with all those memories. So She backed away and glared at me. "These are my memories." No, they're not. "But these are all I have left of him. Don't you dare." She covered her face with her hands and cowered. "Don't you dare take him away from me." With one final scream that depleted all the energy in her slender frame, she started crying again. I don't know why. Not even to this day, I don't understand it. I couldn't take another step. I stumbled out of the church. I slumped against the wall and sank to the ground. Psychic corrosion. So hard, so sad, so heavy for a soul to bear. Just thinking about her now filled me with so much pain that I found it hard to breathe. So this was why Maria had chosen to forget it all. I looked up. It was raining and snowing. Winter had truly come. The city would be enveloped in white soon enough. Was it really true what they said? Did it really get any easier if you just forgot? Somehow I had my doubts now. I felt weak. The fever had come back, and it was snowing so hard now, but I could still make out a black suit. I needed to stand. so Dexter knew where she was. He'd sent his agents to get her, but not if I could help it. So I stood as quickly as I could, but everything was blurry. All my strength left me, and I slumped down to the ground. Then I knew no more, and the world, everything that I knew and loved in it, went completely dark. I never stopped thinking about the girl, not even at the last. This is my true remembrance. Oh, snap. The epilogue. Okay, I'm gonna do the epilogue next time, but anyways, that was a sad story. So I don't know what the epilogue's gonna have, but yeah, anyways, I'm interested in seeing what's next, so yeah, thanks for watching.